They say family is everything, but sometimes family becomes your greatest enemy. I'm Margaret, born in 1954 in Carson City, Nevada. Back in 2020, when I was 66 and freshly widowed, my son Michael convinced me I needed company and moved his wife, Sarah, and their two teenagers into my four-bedroom home. I felt grateful for the companionship, but then something happened that shattered my world completely. Today, at 70 and finally free, I'm sharing this because every woman deserves to know her worth, no matter her age. If you're listening, drop your location below, and please like and subscribe. After Harold passed, the silence in our house felt suffocating. When Michael suggested moving in temporarily to help with expenses and keep me company, I welcomed them with open arms. Sarah seemed sweet enough, always complimenting my cooking and asking about my day. The grandchildren, Emma and Tyler, brought laughter back into these walls. For the first few months, I felt alive again, bustling around preparing meals, doing laundry, and maintaining the house while they settled into their routines. But gradually, things shifted. Michael started treating me less like his mother and more like hired help. "Mom, can you watch the kids while we go out?" became a nightly request. Sarah stopped helping with household chores entirely, leaving dirty dishes piled high and expecting me to clean up after everyone. When I mentioned feeling tired, Michael would snap, "You're retired. What else do you have to do?" The sting of those words cut deeper each time. The breaking point came last spring when I mentioned to Michael that I'd been thinking about dating again. I'd met a lovely gentleman named Robert at the senior center, and we'd been having coffee together. Michael's face twisted with disgust. "Mom, you're 70 years old. You're damaged goods that nobody wanted the first time around. Stop embarrassing yourself." Sarah laughed from the kitchen, adding, "At your age, you should focus on being useful to your family, not chasing fantasies." Their cruelty stunned me into silence, but worse was yet to come. That evening, I overheard Emma talking to her friend on the phone. "Yeah, Grandma's getting weird about wanting a boyfriend. Mom says she's losing it and probably won't live much longer anyway. At least we'll inherit this house soon." Tyler chimed in from his room. "Good. Then we can finally get rid of all her old lady stuff and make this place normal." The next morning, while cleaning Michael's room, I discovered documents scattered on his desk. My hands trembled as I read a forged power of attorney form with my signature crudely copied. There were also printed emails between Michael and Sarah discussing plans to have me declared mentally incompetent. Sarah had written, "Your mother is becoming a burden and a shadow of herself. We need to act fast before she does something stupid with her money or the house." My heart pounded as I read Michael's response. "I've already contacted that lawyer friend of mine. He says if we can document some incidents of confusion or forgetfulness, we can petition the court. Once we have guardianship, we can sell this place and put her somewhere cheaper." The casual way they discussed destroying my life felt like ice water in my veins. I knew I needed evidence, so I purchased small recording devices online and strategically placed them around the house. Within a week, I had captured conversations that revealed the full scope of their betrayal. Sarah complained to her sister on the phone, "Living with Margaret is like babysitting a child, except children eventually grow up. She just takes up space and resources we could be using for our future." Michael was even more callous, telling his friend, "The old bat thinks she's going to find love at 70. It's pathetic. We're just waiting for nature to take its course. But if she keeps being difficult, we might need to speed things along legally." When his friend asked about my feelings, Michael laughed coldly. She's lived her life. Now it's our turn. The recordings also revealed their financial exploitation. They'd been using my credit cards for personal expenses, forging my signature on checks, and had even opened a line of credit against my house without my knowledge. Sarah bragged about a shopping spree she'd taken with my money, saying, "Margaret never checks her statements anyway. She's too trusting and probably too senile to notice." Armed with this evidence, I quietly contacted Mr. Thompson, a family lawyer downtown. His face grew grave as he reviewed the recordings and documents. "Mrs. Henderson, what they're doing constitutes elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. We need to act quickly to protect your assets and your rights." He helped me transfer my accounts to a new bank, update my will to exclude Michael and Sarah entirely, and prepare legal documents to reclaim my home. The hardest part was accepting that the son I'd raised and loved had become a stranger motivated purely by greed. As I sat in my bedroom that final night before executing my plan, I felt a mixture of heartbreak and determination. They'd underestimated this old lady, and tomorrow they'd learn that 70 years of life had taught me more about strength and resilience than they could ever imagine. The morning of reckoning arrived with Nevada's desert sun streaming through my kitchen windows. While Michael, Sarah, and the kids slept in, I methodically packed their belongings into boxes and suitcases. Every item I folded felt like reclaiming a piece of my dignity. Their clothes, electronics, personal items, everything went into neat piles on my front porch. I'd spent 3 hours working in silence, my hands steady despite the magnitude of what I was about to do. At exactly am. I placed a sealed envelope on top of their belongings. Inside, I'd written a detailed letter explaining their financial crimes, complete with bank statements showing unauthorized charges and copies of the forged documents. I'd also included printed screenshots of their recorded conversations, highlighting the most damaging quotes in yellow marker. "Michael and Sarah," the letter began, "your greed has cost you a family and a home. You called me damaged goods, but you're the ones who are truly broken." The locksmith arrived at 10:30, a kind older gentleman who worked efficiently while I explained the situation. "Ma'am, I've seen this before," he said sadly. "Family taking advantage of seniors is more common than people think. You're brave for standing up for yourself." I am. Every lock on my house had been changed. I held the new keys in my palm, feeling their weight like symbols of my newfound freedom. Michael's pounding on the door started around noon. "Mom, what the hell is this? Open this door right now." His voice carried that same entitled tone that had worn me down for months. Sarah joined in, screaming about their rights and threatening legal action. Through the window, I watched them frantically reading my letter, their faces cycling through shock, anger, and panic. Emma cried about her clothes, while Tyler kicked at their boxes in frustration. "You can't do this to us," Sarah shrieked. "We have nowhere to go." I opened the window just enough to speak clearly. "You should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me and plot to have me declared incompetent. Mr. Thompson, my lawyer, has copies of everything. Any attempt to harass me further will result in criminal charges." Michael's face turned red with rage, but I could see fear creeping into his eyes as the reality of their situation sank in. They spent the next hour loading their car and a hastily rented U-Haul truck. Neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Chen from next door approached me with concern. "Margaret, are you all right? Do you need help?" I smiled genuinely for the first time in months. "I'm better than I've been in a long time, Helen. Thank you for asking." As Michael's truck disappeared down Maple Street, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. The house felt different immediately, lighter and more peaceful. I walked through each room, reclaiming spaces that had felt invaded for so long. In the kitchen, I made myself a cup of tea and sat at my table without worrying about cleaning up after anyone else. The silence wasn't lonely anymore. It was liberating. 3 weeks later, I decided to rent out the spare bedroom. Robert, the gentleman I'd met at the senior center, had mentioned he was looking for a quiet place after his lease ended. He was a retired firefighter, 72, with kind eyes and gentle hands that spoke of a life spent helping others. When he came to see the room, we talked for hours about books, travel, and the challenges of starting over later in life. "Margaret," he said as he prepared to leave, "I hope this isn't too far, but would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? Not as your tenant, but as someone who enjoys your company." My heart fluttered in a way I thought I'd forgotten. "I'd love that, Robert." Michael's cruel words echoed briefly in my mind, but I pushed them away. At 70, I deserved companionship and joy, regardless of what anyone else thought. Robert moved in the following week, and our friendship blossomed into something beautiful. He cooked breakfast while I tended my garden. We watched old movies together and shared stories about our late spouses without jealousy or competition. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the Nevada sky in brilliant oranges and purples, he stood and extended his hand. "Would you dance with me, Margaret?" The radio was playing an old Frank Sinatra song, and as we swayed together on my front porch, I felt truly alive for the first time since Harold's death. Inspired by my experience, I wrote a letter to the Nevada Women's Alliance, sharing my story and advocating for better protection of elderly rights. "Too often," I wrote, "society views older women as invisible, used up, or burdens to be managed. We are none of these things. We are survivors, wisdom keepers, and deserving of love and respect at every age." The letter was published in their newsletter and sparked conversations about elder abuse throughout our community. Michael attempted to contact me several times through mutual friends, but I remained firm in my boundaries. Some family members criticized my actions, calling them harsh, but I'd learned that protecting myself wasn't cruelty, it was necessary self-preservation. The people who truly mattered understood and supported my decision. Today, as I write this story, Robert is in the kitchen humming while he prepares our lunch. The house is filled with laughter again, but this time it's genuine and respectful. I've learned that it's never too late to reclaim your power, demand respect, and find love. Age doesn't diminish our worth, it enhances it with wisdom and experience. If my story resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and empowerment. Share this with anyone who needs to remember their own strength, and comment below with your thoughts or similar experiences. Remember, you're never too old to start over. Stand up for yourself or find happiness. Your worth isn't determined by others' opinions. It's inherent and unchangeable. No matter your age. Moral lesson: sometimes the greatest victories come from simply refusing to accept less than we deserve, teaching us that self-respect blooms beautifully at any age.